Everybody knows how many Bitcoin there are. Whether you check the code yourself or you look it up on Wikipedia, yep, the supply is 21 million. That's part of why Bitcoin is so exciting, something digital that is scarce. But today, I'll show you why the circulating supply will never actually be 21 million. No, some coins are gone forever for mysterious, tragic, and dumb reasons. Today, I'll show you the lost Bitcoin. Some Bitcoin are lost, and some Bitcoin are really lost. To make sense of this, I've created 3 categories: potentially lost, likely lost, and forever lost.
Oh no!
If you go on any platform where Bitcoin is discussed, you will find people saying, "I can't believe it. I lost my password. I can't believe it. I threw out my computer that had Bitcoin on it." You will find many stories where people claim they lost 5 Bitcoin here, 2 Bitcoin here. You know, people were careless before the markets took off in price. One guy reportedly threw out his computer with 7,500 Bitcoin on it in 2013. He's still trying to dig up the landfill and get to his computer. It's very sad. But people can lie. You should never trust what someone says on the internet, even if they can show you a transaction ID. There are reasons to lie about losing your Bitcoin. Even the landfill man potentially could still have access to the coins. Might be unlikely he has the coins if they haven't moved around, but we just don't know. It's like proving a negative. If one day they move, he could just say, "Oh my God, somebody found my Bitcoin." So I'm not going to count these as definitely lost. If there's a chance, someone might still have access to them. Same goes for the coins that Satoshi mined. Most people say that Satoshi is gone, so those coins aren't going anywhere. They're lost, but we don't know that. Not to go on a tangent, but I think Satoshi is still alive.
Oh no!
Some Bitcoin have ended up in addresses that no one has ever had access to. The private key is unknown. Why? How would this happen? Well, if you control some Bitcoin, it might be useful for you to burn it. It doesn't actually get set on fire, but sending Bitcoin to an address that no one can get to makes it practically impossible for anyone to get. There are a number of burn addresses out there, and to demonstrate how hard it would be to brute force the private key, here is an excellent video by Grant Sanderson.
So even if you were to have your GPU-packed kilogoogle per person multiplanetary gigagalactic computer guessing numbers for 37 times the age of the universe, it would still only have a 1 in 4 billion chance of finding the correct guess.
It is technically possible, but no one is getting access to those. A notable example of this is when more than 2,700 Bitcoin were burned by Counterparty to create their altcoin XCP. The thought process being that by jumping off from Bitcoin, something that is actually valuable, it would set the project apart from other altcoins who just print money out of thin air. You can be the judge on if holding XCP was a good idea. Bitcoin have also been sent into the abyss on accident. In 2011, an individual with the username Magical Tux was running their own custom Bitcoin client and sent a transaction with more than 2,600 Bitcoin to an address I believe no one could ever access, apparently the number 0. I haven't found a real explanation on what they were trying to do, or even how that is possible. You certainly can't send Bitcoin to 0 easily, but as old school Bitcoin Talk user BT Curious explained, so basically it's not really possible to check for all things that go wrong. The Bitcoin protocol supports a lot more than just sending coins from A to B, even though that's mainly what you see in the normal client nowadays. The miners need to accept unusual transactions, though, as long as they adhere to the Bitcoin protocol. And again, with Bitcoin, there's no customer service you can call to make a complaint to. You're on your own. The huge waste of Bitcoin actually started a debate on the forum, with people advocating for some more user-friendly features like an "Are you sure" button before sending anything. And the really interesting thing that came from that conversation was that Magical Tux was revealed to be someone who worked at Mt. Gox, the infamous Bitcoin exchange that fell apart due to incompetence. So that's interesting to note. But Magical Tux was Mark Karpelès, the man running Mt. Gox, the number one. Mark was messing around and lost those Bitcoin. Strange how Mark has inserted himself into so much of Bitcoin history.
Hello.
Now to the truly lost Bitcoin, the forever lost. To find these, we have to go back, way back, and look at the very beginning of Bitcoin, to the very first block mined by Satoshi. This block was called the Genesis block, and it's unusual for a few reasons. It wasn't doing the normal checks of the previous block because there was no previous block. There was no blockchain at this point. The Bitcoin network was just a block. It was also unusual because a message was inside it, and it also produced 50 Bitcoin that got permanently stuck in this address. The Genesis block transaction is not considered to be a real Bitcoin transaction by the Bitcoin client. So if anyone, including Satoshi, were to try to move those, the network would reject it. This anomaly wasn't discovered until after Satoshi disappeared, so no one was able to ask them why it was programmed in this way. This black hole address has gained some notoriety, and over the years people have sent small amounts of Bitcoin to it. I'm not sure why, but this is the current balance as of September 2020. Another loss, a permanent loss, took place in 2011 when a user with the name Midnight Magic mined a block and intentionally eliminated a piece of Bitcoin. In their own words, in block 124724, I deliberately and specifically underpaid myself by 100 millionth of a Bitcoin, which is colloquially known as 1 Satoshi, after Bitcoin's creator, and due to a lack of a good name for that amount of Bitcoin money. To make absolutely sure that I was doing it on purpose, I sent the reward value to 49.9 repeating, which meant that I inadvertently threw away the transaction fees, which I could have allocated to myself. I did it as a tribute to our missing Satoshi. We are missing Satoshi, and now the blockchain is missing 1 Satoshi too, for all time. Other miners have done similar things since then, but Midnight Magic deserves a big shout out for being the first and clearly doing it for a noble reason. For anyone holding Bitcoin today, that's all actually a good thing. I should have said this in the intro, but the reason this is all cool is that for anyone holding some Bitcoin, it becomes slightly more scarce, slightly more valuable with every lost Bitcoin. So for those who send their Bitcoin into the void, we thank you. There you go. Hopefully you learned something new. And if you mess up, don't stress out too much. Just consider it a donation to the community.